So welcome everybody. We'll get started. Because we have it's one guest, two guests that not know everybody. We'll go around the room. I'm Doug Bogan, Chair of the Conservation Commission.
Gary Embry, Conservation Commission.
Rob Gibson.
Oh, we go. Oh, sorry. Vanessa Price, town planner. That one's the after the minutes.
Jack Gale, Vice Chair and Treasurer.
Paul Panish, Commissioner.
Dan Cassidy, alternate. I'm Steve Crawford, New Hampshire Wildlife Federation.
I'm Kelly Knights on his way. We went to dinner, so now.
Welcome.
Welcome. We'll suspend the usual agenda.
Sure. So what I emailed you about, Doug, and has everybody gotten to see the email?
I'm not sure.
I could not bring up any pictures.
So I'll give you some background on it then. I'm a board member of the New Hampshire Wildlife Federation. Largely that organization exists to protect hunting, fishing, trapping rights. We also have, as part of our mission, maintaining and improving habitat and land conservation. I'm relatively new to that organization in the last couple of years. They have historically always focused on game species. And so we started last year to try and broaden our portfolio to other things. This turtle nesting project was the idea. Beggars on our board is a formal biologist and fishing game. He's been trying for years to find somebody, and I was new enough when he asked if anybody wanted to help that I raised my hand. We found some landowners last year, the city of Concord on 2 sites, and then a private landowner in Henniker, who were open to the idea of improving turtle nesting habitat. We work with Fish and Game. Josh Megacy, who's the turtle biologist there, I actually been emailing back and forth in the last couple of days, and he's willing to come on site walks with us if you guys decide this is something you're interested in, and find a few parcels that might be candidates. And if you do decide that and give me an idea ahead of time what they are, he said he can rule things out, like as a no, this probably won't work, just on GPS map, and then sort of narrow down the search. What we were looking for from landowners is, do you have a site? Are you willing? Is it relatively accessible, because it requires getting sand to it, which is can be relatively labor intensive. So the places we looked at last year were previously log sites that still had some access through logging roads. The log landings are ideal because they're open, relatively sunny in the spring, keep the site warm. Also a little bit of groundwork on my part. It's shovels and rakes, sort of clear and scarify the ground to make sure nothing's going to grow through. And then getting the sand put down, and that's largely it. There are opportunities for signage if the town is interested. Concord opted last year not to, because they didn't want to create an attractive nuisance and invite people to come in and wander around. There are signage opportunities. We're working now on the fundraising for this year. We did 3 sites last year and had enough interest from our donors and sponsors that we're going to try and do 6 this year.
Is there any specific turtles that you're trying to make habitat for, or is it?
No, it's. I think generally it's been a turtle nesting project. The improving habitat and keeping them away from roads. If you can provide nesting. If you look around the state, most road shoulders are relatively soft material, and they're frequently sites of nesting, and you end up with lots of turtle damage. And that's why I see turtle signs. This is keeping them in the woods and away from that. So no particular types of turtles. Last year, when I was sort of picking this up and starting the project, I talked to the Farm Bureau and the Timberland Owners Association as large groups representing private landowners. One of the challenges we had with those groups is that if you do encourage some of these rare or endangered turtles, there may be limits on your ability to log for profit on that property.
Right.
We're happy with any turtles. We have a black or painted turtle at one of the sites last year. Any turtles, it's kind of exciting. And snakes too. I'm calling it a turtle nesting project.
So since you're trying to keep them off roads, Are you looking for something with a given proximity to a traveled road?
This is year two. I would say now at this point that we're wide open. The places I found last year in Concord are places that I've known because I've hunted and hiked and foraged and putted around out there for years, and they logged them the year before. So this is obvious. They're within, those places are both probably within 500 yards of Interstate 89. That's not been a consideration as to how proximate they are to roads.
But you do need road access, right? 'Cause
It
it's-
makes it easier. It makes it easier.
We're not doing wheelbarrows.
Yeah, logging good
It's-
will now.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of work.
Now, is this gonna be sand placed next to a body of water? Or
So it is sand.
within so many feet so that we don't have to get people upset about putting a beach?
No, so sand is the material that, and the two sites that we chose last year, one of them is probably 75 yards from the brook. The other one is 400 or 500 yards from the nearest wetland. So again, that's why I am not by any means a turtle expert or herpetology expert. That's why I've been using Josh at Fishing Game to help me pick the right site. And when I'm walking out there, I'm looking at this as the site. He's sort of looking at the landscape level. And he's also looking at historical records of, do we know what turtles are in this area? There are an awful lot of terrestrial only turtles, so proximity to water doesn't have to be, but I think it probably would be in many cases. Yeah.
Well, we know we got landings out at Richland Pond.
Yeah, very cool. And just in our last meeting, we were informed. that
Oh, yeah?
They're definitely there.
I think that's pretty neat.
Behind the highway garage too, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they've been found many
That's-
places.
yeah.
We've had them on Scoop Pond Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also have, I don't know if you've talked to Seltenol, but we've got the Ann Tibbet Shoals Turtle Preserve out on Booster
Well,
Road.
it's Turtle Brook. It's
Turtle
the name,
Brook.
but It's not.
Okay.
But they actually, the NRCS holds the easement
Okay.
for it, and they actually blocked off an area. And they didn't say why, they just said habitat protection, sensitive wildlife area. And there is a heron rookery right next door, so that kind of makes sense. But I was wondering whether they were looking at turtles, because it is a open area that had loose soil. But I never found out if that's actually what they had in mind.
You can get in there with a vehicle for a
Yeah.
certain distance, and
Yeah.
we've been told, because one of our earlier trails, the Barrington Trail, cuts right through there.
Okay.
And we were told that some of the trails that already existed there that allowed you to go out and look at the heron, nests, they weren't to be developed or used.
Okay.
They want to protect them. I'm okay. So I assume the similar idea would be in place for turtles too. We don't want to, we're not making a place here for people to come and look at them.
Not necessarily, no, and that was Concord's idea. So the two sites we have are not far from a snowmobile trail in the winter, but in the winter, you don't know. Just people, because it's a snowmobile trail, people will hike on occasion in the summer. And that's how I found the spots, just sort of wandering around out there.
But it sounds like you'd prefer having a less trafficked area. Right on a main trail.
That's the sense I got last year. Again, I don't know that that's a limiting factor, but that's the sense I got last year. If you have places that are actively used, and maybe there's an educational opportunity with signage, there could be benefit in that too.
Yeah. And so far, it's just been private land?
No, so we last year was just sort of a, let's see if this works. Our federation president has a friend who had private land in Henniker who was interested, and then because I knew those places in Concord, I emailed, sort of like I sent you that note. I emailed the conservation committee chair in Concord and chatted back and forth with her a bit, and then she and I and their town forester and Josh did a site walk, and it was a similar thing. I interacted with them a little bit and then let them decide whether it was something they were interested in. And on the part of the town, you can be as engaged or not as you want. If you decide, you make the ultimate decision on whether or not you want to do something like this. And then if you say yes, last year we figured out sand and getting the sites cleaned up and delivery dates, and confirmed it all with the town just to make sure we weren't going to step on anything else they had organized those days. And it was me and our federation president doing the work last year. If you guys have folks that want to help with that or want to be out there, that's fine too. It's supposed to be helping you do stuff that you want to do if you want to. And if not, no heartburn. I've got other places I'll go and chat with. Yeah.
Well, I would think some of us and probably Trails Committee people would be interested in
Yeah, so that would be
the
wonderful.
project.
That'd be wonderful.
You know,
Well, yeah, I guess,
I happen to have the perfect spot for him. On conservation, on our conservation
Yeah.
land, on the Isinglass River, and it's my meadow in my backyard leading down the conservation. And several turtles try, and they've dug and they've tried to nest out there. I'm not certain how successful they've been, and I've seen the turtle. I'm sorry, I'm not a turtle expert, so I have no clue what the turtle was. But I think a little area with a little, maybe a little more sand would be better for them there, because they're trying to dig up that upper meadow before it drops down into the river.
They're
Anyway,
pretty
you want to
good
take a
at
look at the site? On that.
And you'll
Yeah,
never
so-
find where they dug after they leave. It is.
the question is how far do they go up from the river?
It's
to
a
do
way,
that?
they
You know,
have
because
to
you
go.
find something land, but
You hike up that line, they have to hike up that trail
Yeah.
to get to the upper level.
Yeah,
But they can.
Let's do.
And it's sunny and it's
Yeah.
warm.
He also mentioned educational. One of, I think there's an old trail on, out beyond the lot at Barrington Middle School. That, but that would, that would be bringing another entity with the school department, and I don't know. I think John Wallace went out, went and walked the trail to see what it was. And I think, didn't the ECLC actually recently cut a trail for their little kids? We're talking 5, 6 years old, so I don't know
Yeah.
what the educational opportunity to, you're not at the age where you're gonna explain turtle breeding to a 6-year-old.
And that it's an interesting idea. So I have also been approached by a private school this year for the first time. I said, so there are opportunities. I had the first thing about you to, sort of, how do you manage that? What age? How do you engage, incorporate education?
Yeah, what's the long-term stewardship of something like this? Because
Yeah.
we've got a rabbit tap down in our Satwasser property
Right.
where they went in and cleared an area, and now where they left the stumps, we've now got these 5 and 6 trunk little trees growing there. We recently had some UNH students go to another area, and we asked them to cut down certain things. And we had the county forester and the UNH co-op there with us.
Okay.
But we had, because they were college students, we couldn't give them chainsaws. So it was hand saws. But they did plant a few of the New England cottontails, I think, over in Durham or Dover. But they quickly, they were tagged, and they later figured out they all died pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think some of them might have bred, but it was, now we got an area that, we would have to spend money to go in and try to bring it back to the low shrubby areas that the rabbits like. And I'm not sure if we will spend that money again, especially if even the places where they actually seeded with some cottontails, they didn't do well.
Yeah, do you have a time frame for maintaining?
So my understanding from Josh and reading some stuff is that there's minimal to no long-term maintenance, because you're putting sand on the landscape, and it's just going to become part of the soil over time, but it maintains sort of the looseness that turtles will use. You don't have the risk of regrowing stumps or other stuff. Part of scarifying the land underneath is to slow down the growth of shrubs and brush through.
So it'll obviously be easier to pick an area that's already kind of clear.
Well, that's what the log landings are ideal for several reasons, but
Because we've got streams and open areas on the east side of Satwasser. But I would assume that because it's for water supply, that turtles wouldn't be a problem. I know we can't take horses out there, but
Well, we're not, turtles got to find their own way there. Bring them.
no,
They aren't.
yeah,
so if the commission decides that there's an interest in this project in general, you all are the experts in knowing where. You said there may be up to a dozen or 15 possibilities.
Yeah.
Send me a list of them, and whether it's parcel maps or general ideas, and I can work with Josh at Fish and Game to go through some of those, because they sound great to me in description. He may look at some of them and then the historical data he has and says, well, let's not worry about these 5, but these handful might be worth looking at to see what's ideal. So you don't want to limit the places yet. I'd like to ask him for his opinion on So where should we be looking? If I did a list of 10 or 12 or 15.
We can't
Right.
discriminate against snappers, I suppose.
Absolutely no. We can't discriminate against snakes. They're not my favorite. Snakes will use these with equal opportunity as well.
And every property we got has got somebody who holds an easement that we'd have to go through them too. Could, you'd hope that,
Unless
you
we
know,
hold it.
unless we do, but
Yeah.
I mean,
The town owns a bunch of parcels too, so the town lands committee's been defunct a bit this past year, but AJ Dupier, the chair, was always interested in turtle habitat and building that, and you talked about Boy Scout projects and stuff like that, so there's different town parcels that
Yeah,
could be a good spot, I think.
but I think we have quite a few just among our own existing public lands as well as Selds is another big
And
landowner.
that's a great one. I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, they literally have like 2,000 acres of land in Barrington
Okay.
alone. And some of it, I think, Stonehouse Forest,
yeah.
there's actually roads all through it because it was going to be a game farm back decades ago. It never happened, but they built these substantial roads, and there's that big area where they were going to put the lodge.
Yeah.
And it's a like several acres of cleared land essentially.
And if you go up Barrington, you keep going out, there's more clear land out there too.
And it's within a quarter mile of two significant ponds, so it seems like it would be great habitat.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, and they also did a logging operation there as well.
We're
I
doing
don't know-
another one now, according to
Yeah,
John.
I don't know if they set up a landing other than the existing open areas, but,
Even if there's an existing
Yeah.
close, that gets us close.
and
And
then we have one other one that's in progress, maybe.
Yeah, they just started yesterday to complete the logging.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
and when, you know, there's a landing there that's pretty accessible. Yeah, so we could put together a list,
okay,
quite a
so
few places.
that would, so I,
Start.
ideally, we would like to get nests in or if the weather cooperates earlier than that. They'll really start nesting in earnest end of May, June.
Spring.
Yeah,
Have something in place before that.
Yeah.
So we've got a little time, but if you guys are interested, you want to get me a list, Doug, of places, I'll go through them with Josh and let him help prioritize or rule out a few, and then you and I can be in touch.
and you'll scout.
Figure out what works for a site walk, and if
Yeah.
the whole team wants to come on, we can figure out schedule to
So
wander around.
street addresses work, I guess we could.
I mean, what-
Lot numbers.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you think works is probably fine, between all the various maps.
I've got some
stuff out
out there now, coordinates for some of the parking lots.
Yeah,
Just something that
Or you
gets
can
us
use
close.
what three words if you're.
yeah, and the public lands, of course, they're all on the website.
Easy enough to find. He will, like I said, I would, if you sent me the GPS coordinate, I would look at that log landing. Josh is going to pan out and look at the landscape level to say, yes, this is good. Yes, this is good. And he went so far last year as to recommend which sort of section of the log landing to put it in because of the sun at different times of day. No, okay, it's oriented this way, so you want it on this side. Yeah. So it's not a real hard project, but it takes some prep time and some big time to think about it.
It does seem like it's simpler if we focus on the public lands as opposed to working with the.
That's what I
a
found.
couple landowners that I think would be sympathetic.
Yeah, that's what I found last year.
And
And that's great. That's great too.
Yeah.
That's great too. And I just saw you grab I just brought you those because I was happy with the brochure. So we had just had those printed last week.
Yeah.
That's some of our fundraising stuff,
Mhm.
but it gives you a little bit of background and some pictures. So our donors who are interested, we don't have to do this for them, but finding other people, or get people giving us 25 or 50 bucks or something because they're interested in the idea. So I'm happy to chat, happy to answer more questions now. You've got my email, you've got my phone number and email.
And any other
I appreciate
questions
the
or
audience very
comments,
much.
suggestions?
And again, to the extent you're interested in getting an experiential report from anybody else, I can get you in touch with Chris Carter, who's the chair in Concord, if you want to chat with her and their experience.
And, when we narrow down the list, maybe the sidewalk.
Absolutely. I'm happy to, this has become sort of my pet project, my side hustle. So
Great.
I'm happy to come out and wander around a little bit anywhere something to take from the woods. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so folks can send me your suggestions and put a list together and get it to you.
Fantastic.
Great, well, thanks a lot. for
Thank you
coming
very
in.
much. Like, I appreciate it. Lots of email. Of course.
This front, so I live in Dover, but on my property, I have area that might be okay with that. Are you just looking for more like public lands or is it?
I'm any landowner that's interested, we're happy to work
Is there
with.
like a minimum acreage, but like?
I should have covered that. This is my
Okay.
first pitch. Like this.
Okay.
So 20 by 30 is about the minimum size that he's looking for.
For this.
Give enough
this
space.
feet.
20 feet by 30 feet is the, so
And what, foot, say?
9 inches to a foot. So about 20, that ends up about 20 yards. It's like 18.97 yards of sand. So about 20 yards of sand is what we brought in and raked out.
Do you bring that in
That's-
annually or by like vehicle? Like.
We have not in the past. So last year, so last year, so that's the picture from last year. Last year it was on recently logged property. So there were the logging roads and the landing. It was
okay.
easy. I have a buddy who owns a landscaping company and he's got small machines. Has offered me skid steers and stuff if you couldn't get a truck all the way to a site. Rather
Like
than doing a
for where?
wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow. You know, we
Yeah.
had a bobcat, so we could do little bits at a time.
Okay.
So some nearby water, sun is good,
Sun is
ideally with the truck access.
ideally truck access. We can, at some point, I'm gonna run into a project that doesn't do that, but we'll figure it out.
So we have plenty of it.
Yeah, we've got-
Easier.
So, yeah, the manual labor part doesn't scare me. We're willing to do that. Trucks are ideal, because the raking is heavy enough work.
Yeah.
It's
It's a lot
good
of
stuff.
sand.
You know, you wouldn't think it, that's just one truck, it's a lot of sand to rake out, yeah. It's a lot of sand.
Oh, I have to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Good
Great.
deal.
All right.
Thank you all very
Yeah,
much. I
sure.
appreciate it. Look forward to
Thank you.
talking to you soon, Doug.
Yep.
We'll talk to you soon, Rob.
Thank
you. So have a good night.
I'm sorry?
Oh, thank you.
Here. Okay. I guess Vanessa, I'd like to hang out a lot longer. We can have you go next.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, as it was kind of a little bit of a short notice, but I was just recently notified of a grant opportunity. It's and you guys already may know more about it. It's called sorry, just to butcher that name.
It's kind of,
Thank you. Region Environmental Planning Assessment. And it's like the PREP, Estuaries Partnership is doing grants for $5,000 to $25,000 in planning regulatory outreach projects for tech natural resources and or water quality. And I just recently went to a webinar just to get some more information on like what kind of things that would be, what kind of projects would be ideal for this. And I know there was some discussion, at least in our office, and I think probably last year when we were working on the wetland assessment about prime wetlands in general, the wetlands assessment we do have is like from 1991. And so I just briefly asked in that meeting if that was a project that could be considered. They said yes. There also were people last year that when they applied for it did a natural resource master plan chapter for it. Now I know that SRPC has already done like a natural resource assessment, so kind of be like a level up from that. Also on their website they had 4 other projects that they identified for Barrington. A lot of them had to do with the wetland buffer increase.
That's what we've spoken to.
Yeah, so they may have gotten those ideas from y'all. So I didn't want to like overspeak because I'm meeting with the woman next week, just to kind of like talk. Yeah. And I apologize. I was trying to find what the other project was. 3 of the project initiatives had to deal with increasing the wetland buffers at some extent or another.
This was actually the buffer assessment tool.
Okay.
We were interested in getting some GIS skills and equipment perhaps to help us with that and to make it more usable. But it wasn't clear that they were in a position to support that.
Yeah, from what I know, it just seems like it's more of a like an app, like I said, planning a regulatory thing. It's not actual materials, it sounds like. So I wanted to come to the group to see if that's something that you might be interested in. I don't know how much that would cost. I think it would have cost more than 25,000, at least for the prime wetlands study to be redone. Or if there are other project ideas that you may have already discussed. I don't know if you've already discussed.
Well, I think
things
I
with the
mentioned you,
partnership
we were already
too.
talking about the prime wetlands and
Yeah.
because of the
I remember
discussion
that
at the
too.
last meeting, it was, made
Good timing,
to
kind
us
of.
they're really old and things have changed and I'm sure we have ideas about expanding the list perhaps or, reevaluating.
Was that part of the last report?
Yeah, I'm sorry you weren't here, but, that's what he mentioned to
Yeah.
us and sort of recommended, take another look at it. So, yeah, we were already thinking along those lines. That sounds good. I'm not sure what's involved with the chapter.
Yeah, so
Master plan.
to be honest, I'm not 100% sure yet either, because they wanted to have like one-on-one people that were interested. So right now they're doing, or they're in the phase of request for proposals, just to say like what kind of interest do you have and what you like to look forward to doing.
Yeah. Now you previously brought up a recreation chapter.
Yeah, so I
Is
know
that
that I
also-
mentioned last year talking with you, and I've also talked with Jesse at Recreation and trying to do a combination master plan chapter for like either open space recreation or something along those lines. It could be named something else.
Yeah.
Because I know the rec is expanding their programming and recreational uses too.
Right.
And
it fits in with the town center project.
Exactly,
Or
yeah.
Connectivity.
yeah, so haven't gotten too far on that as well, because I know that we're working on implementation plans for the town center and with our trails committee and that sort of thing. But I know that's something, at least from the planning or the land use office or myself, maybe seem to have a vested interest in doing a new chapter for the town to have those and have the partnership with the Conservation Commission and with recreation. And that could maybe be with this. I didn't ask them, because it was like when a webinar of probably like several people. So I have a one-on-one meeting with next week to see what kind of requests for proposals.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
So I didn't want to go after something if you guys weren't, didn't want to keep anybody in the dark, or if you were like supportive of perhaps one of these projects, or if there's a higher priority or other projects that, then there was a suggestion about the energy chapter that you maybe mentioned that too.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about
was
that,
more
but
for the energy committee,
Right,
which
right.
several of us are.
I'm part of that too.
So that's an idea as well.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it'd be a lot to put them all into one. It wouldn't all be in one chapter.
Right.
It's all natural resources, I guess.
Right, and the funding is limited. I know that in my department, I have I got reduced this year, which is fine, but I have 10,000, so it's not gonna go.
But there would be some matching. amount, or you'd have
For
to
this
chip in some.
project, it's not required. That's also what's appealing, is that a match is not required. However, if you go above that 25,000, they're only gonna pay up to 25,000, I'll put it
Okay.
that way. So let's say, I'll just say the prime wetlands, for example, if we look at, have a consultant do it and it ends up being 35,000. So they would pay the 25 and then the town would have to come up the 10,000, however that shakes out.
Do you have any idea, order of magnitude, what that project size would be?
No, to be over 25,000.
It
Well,
probably-
no, the prime wetlands map. Okay.
No, I mean.
It's
No,
not
there-
really
Mark
big,
probably
John.
couldn't.
Yeah, there was a gentleman that came in our office.
Just to do the bridges
Right.
on wetlands. and
How much was it?
One little tiny
Well,
area, and we have many,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
so.
to be honest with you, I'm sure it's more than 25,000,
Yeah.
just for like limited experience in just
Yeah.
like planning and regulatory documents.
So if you're gonna
4
look
times.
at-
Yeah.
Look at every single one of them.
Yeah, so, or maybe they can do phasing too. I didn't know. So I just wanted to bring that to you all of you. Like I said, I don't know if you had talked to them in the past, or anybody on the board had talked to them in the past that might have been interested.
Clear.
And if it's phased, perhaps you could get it over the course of a couple of years, get a couple of.
Yeah, because the project needs to be done between 12 and 18 months once it's supported. So, and they said that they would have opportunities next year too. So if there's several projects that we're interested in doing, that it could be, there's potential to partner with one project.
Seems like a good thing to pursue.
Yeah.
What were the other projects we put on the capital reserve requests?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was a list of them.
yeah, well, we were talking about forestry plans for
Yeah.
like Satwasser is one.
Is that something we would apply for?
You can.
Or will you help us do that?
Yeah, well, I was, not being selfish, but got really excited. It's like, oh, it's something we can apply for. And I was like, maybe the Conservation Commission wants to apply for it. So I'm offering my help. I'll put it that way. Whatever that,
That's good.
whatever that
We're glad to
capacity
have other
means.
people do the work.
Yeah. Well, and they mentioned that their regional planning councils have done a lot of grant opportunities or helped write the grants too, and then help facilitate it. So that also is a cost savings for us because we already, we're within a planning council.
Right.
Let me see what you said this.
Yeah, obviously the Richardson Dam is the number one, I guess,
Right.
priority, but
I don't remember if any of them were in the smaller category, like $25,000. Or even conservation has funds to kind of match. if we want to.
yeah. I know we put in something about just trail maintenance and wanting to be able to do a better job of maintaining all our public lands.
We talked about like trail kiosk, kind of centrally located for all the trails.
Yeah, I mean, didn't get very far in the details, but that was kind of the general concept. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the staffing interest,
Mm-hmm.
which I suppose it's a good time to bring up some bad news.
Oh, no.
Connor, you haven't heard this?
No.
Just came like yesterday's. We get to put it on the agenda. Connor's informed me that the select board, on the advice of the ABC, has decided not to fund our staff position this year. So we can do it on our own, which he suggested might be a possibility, but then obviously that means we pay 100% of the cost or do a smaller position, not full time. So anyway, I wanted to throw that out there because that was obviously some of our thinking.
So, but
We were hoping to have staff that could write grants and do a lot of the legwork.
well, I can, I'm throwing myself out there. I mean, I can help you when I can. Once now that zoning amendments have been over, at least in our our venue, for a little bit, or probably more time. So yeah.
Even though we were gonna fund most of it, they turned it down.
Well, it was what, 80% to start, and then it was going to go down.
Yeah.
No, we can handle 20%.
But I think it worked out to like $200,000 over 5 years to us and the same amount to the town because we end up swapping to 20% each year. So that.
Yeah, so they looked at that and said, and my understanding is they're looking at actually cutting.
It's a fairly big tax increase this time around already. And so
Anything else looked like too much.
Yeah, I'm not buying other tax increase. So that was more money.
Everything's going up.
No.
I'm not against that.
Yeah, no, this position would just add even more to what we're already seeing as an increase that's going on.
Yeah, so we can discuss that separately, but.
Well, if you don't
anyway,
mind, I can say something a little bit about that, at least like when researching on how to help do the job description itself. So in one of the, I don't want to misspeak, I think it's Epping, but I'm not 100% sure. But I know in the summertime, they've taken students from UNH to help do the monitoring or that sort of thing, if that's something that you guys might be open to. It looks like that's been done.
We'd hope to
I know,
get some
I know.
help. We're looking more at the.
But I mean, that would be more cost effective, and even though it's like part-time, maybe seasonally or something like that.
Sell does that, UMaine.
Yeah, do they?
I guess that they probably do it with UNH also.
Well,
Or
that's a
maybe
really
it could be
big topic.
unpaid too.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're kind of getting a little beyond what you were.
yeah, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So looking at the CIP, the projects that kind of fall in that like 20 to, I'll just put within that range for the 25,000. There was a comprehensive conservation management plan. That cost estimate was 30,000. And that could be less, could maybe fit in that 25,000. And another thing was the stewardship of town conservation lands. So I'm not sure if that was the budget for 20. So that's just for funding for development and maintenance of public trails. So that would not fall under the granting.
Yeah,
So
well,
if you're okay with me,
yeah,
not necessarily representing you, but saying, there's support from Conservation Commission on those two topics, I can see how what feedback they get, and if you would like me to come back to a future meeting. I can
Yeah, what's the deadline for?
So, are eligible. The proposal deadline is March 31st. That's a project application. And the requests for proposals are, I think she might have said it in the webinar, but it's not on the website. But maybe it must be in February, March. It just says 4 hours. So like the one-on-one I'm having, Abigail Lyon, it's just to tell her like what our interests are, how we should proceed, and how they can be helped, and maybe if SRPC can help.
No, you haven't gotten into the review of last minutes, but it looked like there was some money that was going to be appropriated for the Richardson Dam engineering.
You know, the basic.
well, that was the previous thing.
I
we
noticed it was tacked
voted
on to
Yeah,
the,
that was from an old.
Yeah, that was
minutes,
just saying what had been
because
approved.
we wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we knew what
Right.
we were. And that, wouldn't that have been paid? I mean, they did wasn't that for the engineering?
Well, that was Mark's bill that he.
No,
No, that's separate. I'm talking about.
I assume that was pre-COVID, so that must have been paid off by now.
I don't want to get,
I wasn't sure.
yeah, I didn't want to get sidetracked, but I was wondering if there's 25,000, let's say, to help towards the overall cost of sounds like we're going to have to re-engineer that plan again. The removal has been taken off the table.
That's
Right.
correct.
And the
And
previous
any
engineering
quote would be
plans.
invalid now. So we don't-
Well, I know Connor wasn't thrilled with it as it was, at the time, and thought that the town engineer could do another look at it or something. but I don't
And
know
that
if
was
any-
never done.
I don't believe so.
Contract with.
Yes,
So,
CMA engineering.
Yeah, they had more ideas around doing it different or better.
And that's a lot more money. Obviously, we're looking at probably $250,000 or something, or more perhaps.
For the whole project, but,
The quote from the previous firm was 330,000,
Yeah.
and that was pre-COVID dollars.
but I didn't know if the 25 could help towards the engine. It sounds like it's going to have
I
to.
can always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Because you got a short time frame coming up here.
Yeah, it's just a discussion, really, like what kind of projects are you thinking about? And
Right, it's already.
Yeah.
what's feasible to
been
do in 12 to 18
Defined
months?
over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's certainly something that we probably will be on the hook for.
It also depends on how quickly you're wanting to bring back conversation, getting interested in.
Well,
The state's not necessarily.
sure. Yeah, they don't seem to
Oh,
be.
because there's a hardship for that.
Right, yeah. But, there's also the idea that it's been hanging over us for almost a decade.
It would
now.
be nice not to have to talk about it
Right.
every meeting.
So anyway, that's one other idea, somehow put that in. So does that give you some
It does, yeah.
direction then? Great. Okay.
My hope is that the capital reserves for bridge and dam repairs, stuff like that would build up, and that those funds could be allocated to Richardson's, they're not just Swains or others, but that over time.
There is a warrant to put some money into the dam account, I think. There's a warrant for.
Well, no, it's still,
Yeah.
it would still.
There's asking if there's a warrant article this year for the dam capital.
I think there was.
I think so, but they may have, yeah, it may have been reduced some, but
Yeah. But there is some funds there, yeah. So hopefully we can tap in something or other, since they are being stingy, it appears. I wanted to have some discussion of the zoning amendments. It's not that we have any, role to play, weigh in. Obviously, they've had hearings and all, but I thought since Vanessa's here, if anybody has any questions, I don't know if anybody has a chance. I guess I don't know if I
did bring
promised
some
to send
copies,
around.
if
Yeah,
anybody wants to pass them around. The a draft of the voter's guide
Yeah,
online
these-
too, so those match the voter's guide, explanations
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. January 7th was the public hearing for those, and there wasn't a second public hearing.
copy. Now, there were some changes made. I know they condensed a few. Is that?
Yes, so the document you're looking, that's there is, like how you will see, once again, like in the voter's guide, they did take, there's a couple definitions that they combined, and then there's, I don't have it right in front of me, I can't remember which article it is, 2, 3, or 4, where, the building size, it's in building sizes, so for example, I can give you an example of turbo cam, that's in the village district, it exceeded, the 50,000 square feet that's allowed in the district. And they got a conditional use permit for it. But we advise that's not appropriate use of, it should be a special exception. And so during that discussion, it also came out that in town center and a PUD, to limit to 50,000 square feet too. So those two were combined. So the planning board had 9 zoning articles, and then there's 4 petitions zoning amendments.
Like Stephen.
Yeah. And you'll see several of them deal with conservation subdivisions, right?
Yeah, so the biggest ones, I think that will be, I mean, everything, of course, will have an impact at some, maybe not definitions necessarily, but the, number one is like the conservation subdivision. There's a lot of changes that were proposed that, like increasing the size, the track line size and the lot size, the, perimeter buffer sizing. And then another one that's big on the table is increasing the town lot size to, almost 3 acres. And increasing the frontage on that as well to 2.
And then that would affect the, what do you call it, the yield plan, right? You know,
Yes,
you
but
gotta-
also,
when
yeah,
they do
Yield
the-
plan, but it also is somewhat of, it's more commonly called snob zoning, it'd be to have
Yeah.
30 square feet,
Yeah.
1,000 square feet
But,
for a
but
house.
from a conservation perspective, it means less houses. But the idea of the yield being less attractive because we know how they, really, especially like
Squeeze.
farms, you remember, they had 175 units out there, and I think they even had more than, it was closer to 200.
that was their pie in the sky, really,
Yeah.
because they did not do any survey work, so.
Yes,
they
It's
didn't
like,
go
well,
in
where are we at now? It's like,
cliffs.
well, you can't really,
Right.
because there's wetlands,
It's
and
solid
some
rock,
site
it's wetlands.
constraints.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of other constraints you're not considering, but.
And there's, one of the ordinances was, steep slopes, right? It includes that.
Yes,
Yeah. so I recall that,
yeah, we're adding
Chris
a
Berry was pointing
definition.
out, you guys don't have a steep slope.
Yeah, so we had a
Yeah,
definition,
yeah,
and I know that our engineer was like, well, it mentions it in the subdivision regulations, but I feel like this is something, especially coming out of recent, I guess I can say now since it's already almost approved. Conditionally approved, like Young Road, there was a lot of questions about the steep slopes, and there's no regulation or teeth or even identify, like, for us with there, I mean, not that you think you know, but you know what a steep slope is, but if it's not defined in our regulations that has teeth, which is our zoning ordinance.
So this is meant to
Harder.
clarify that, right?
Mhm.
Make it more of a real issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe expand on in the future, but that's where that's really the board wants this.
Yeah. Okay.
For the septic
Yeah.
system one.
Oh, yeah.
Increasing by 100 square feet would impose additional septic system requirements. What does that mean? Like additional.
So I will
requirements.
try to say that,
District.
so it's
Like
in,
per lot or.
yeah, so if you want to think of it this way, one of the board members, I mean, a lot of the board members are concerned about water quality. And you're not required to get a septic system until it fails, right? So they were trying to figure out there's some other issues that there's probably failing systems that people don't know about or even have adequate sewer disposal. And so it's really more of like when someone comes in to get a building permit as kind of, this is where I feel like they would be the most impactful for residents. So the majority, or not majority, let's say all of the roads around lakes and that sort of thing are in the shoreline district, I should be more appropriate in saying that, are on Class 6 private roads. And so when they come in for the Class 6 private road policy, I think that's also where that will be captured the most. So like you're increasing your living space, or I don't think he put living space.
Says living.
Yeah.
The living space we kept going back and forth.
Yeah.
So the living space, so like if you're doing renovations and adding additional living space, what the hope is that.
Within an existing structure.
Right.
Not expanding the structure, but just within the existing.
Yeah, so what they're anticipating is then you're required to get a new septic system.
If they can camp with a barely working septic system too close to the lake and you decide to turn it into a 4-season.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
With
they're
more
kind of
apps.
trying to like address perhaps too. I know there's gonna be additional.
Would the state grant a permit or a septic design that close to a lake? I mean, does this prevent them actually from expanding the
I would,
footprint?
Well, if they're close enough to the lake, then the Shoreline Water Quality Act comes in, but I don't know if they'll stop you.
I don't think it would stop you necessarily. There are probably additional permits that you'd have to get, like I know in the shoreline district that you do have to show that you can like build within that zone. So I'd assume that would be the same thing for.
I don't think that will care addresses, do you have enough septic capacity for what you're gonna add to or build? And that would be it. So, I mean, could you build a new home and go, I'm gonna use my current sewer system without even at least getting it tested?
That's kind of what they're doing. Like, that's the idea of it.
It was that way.
Uh,
Because I mean, if somebody had a home that was have gigantic attic and decided to add a couple of extra feet, had a redo their entire septic system.
I think it's also, from what I understand, is that they're trying to, like, there wasn't, like, you could say, well, when was the last time your septic system was fallen? And I think if it's like operational working, I don't think that's necessarily like, I don't think every single person would have to get it, but I think it's trying to address, like he was saying, like either older properties or properties that may not have adequate septic systems right now, it's only required if it's failing to have an updated septic system.
No, on that same topic here, it just says it would impose additional requirements. Where,
Oh, I'm sorry. So there are several documents. It's kind of smushed together. So like the first few pages show, because this is going to be part of the backup documentation for the deliberative. So the first few pages talk about what they're going to be voting on and a brief explanation of what the planning board voted on. And then there's actual backup documentation that shows you and in the zoning ordinance of like the proposed changes and what that would look like. So the things in red shows you what is going to be added to it, added to the zoning ordinance.
Because even if someone was to take an attic, but they put bedrooms in, that's gonna add to the load, even if you don't put another bathroom in. And, I live in a neighborhood that started out as campgrounds and now it's got 4-season homes that some probably are stressing. In the summer, I always make a point of sniffing around the neighborhood to see who's got a problem. Because that makes my lake go funnel.
Vanessa, this is kind of off topic. But
Yes.
Since I've got you here, I had heard that Jim Sakosha was going to propose an amendment to the solar ordinance.
Okay.
I don't see anything about that. Maybe that's for next year.
I have not heard anything like that. It could be,
I've seen it.
To prohibit the tracking size for the
Yeah.
town center.
That's what I was wondering.
no one has informed me of that, and the
Okay.
planning board did not know
And it
that.
would have had to have been
But-
submitted already.
Yeah, if it's for a petition zoning amendment, it would have to be submitted, but if he's looking at, it sounds like he wants to limit them or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that was not.
Okay, I'll get in touch with them.
Yeah.
Well,
So if there aren't other questions about the zoning ordinances, again, while you're here.
that's what I said, I am fine with staying here, I saw a lot of things on the agenda that,
Well,
were
the-
beneficial since
yeah.
I'm here anyways, I don't mind
right.
being here, so.
Well, one in particular that, is coming up is the, Mary Hill Road. the
Yes.
zone Project, and I had questions because I understand he's
So I did
redesigned
bring,
it. We have the
a
maps.
large map, tonight, or not map, excuse me, plan set that
Do
shows.
you want to pull it up on the
You're
screen?
gonna say I can pull it, or he's all over, good. So if you need me to, I can find it too. It's by map, I'm like, yeah, so,
So Mary Hill Road at the bottom
Mhm.
there, and,
they're gonna add an additional, or proposing to add an additional driveway, so it's gonna be a 4-lot subdivision. They did get a ZBA relief, to have the front, from the frontage, so the loop road, or however you wanna call it.
curving.
It has not been yet, presented before the planning board, because, last month they were going to present, and they, the results from the TRG meeting, they decided to do a redesign. I think it was due to the road standards, in my opinion. There could have been other reasons why, because there were 4 houses that were gonna be off of there, and that's a different road standard than 3 houses.
Do you know why they moved?
Wow.
Because it looks like they're moving the other.
I
side.
anticipate the reason that they did that, it was to do. How is it this, instead of making it a private road standard, they can lower the standard to do a common driveway.
Yeah, so if
So,
it's only 3.
yeah, if it's only 3.
Because it really changes, obviously, there's a lot more
Yep, if
impact.
it's
This,
3,
Yeah.
3
And I
or less.
gather they're planning to put the 4th house in that corner there, right above the
Yeah,
wetlands,
so.
right?
up here,
Yeah, somewhere, because
Will
there's
that
a
show the
steep
dri- is
slope.
that one?
uh,
Sorry, my foot's sore.
well, it was-
I mean, that's where the end of the drive.
There's another sheet,
Yeah. if you can-
I don't know what sheet number
This
it
one
is. I
that
think it's maybe
shows the,
sheet 5, maybe, or sheet
Yeah.
7, I think it's.
We're up on 14.
Yeah, because that's all the grading, which is very important to see, but it shows like the layout
Tell me
of,
when you see.
keep going, or north or up. Keep going, keep going, keep going, I think it's, maybe stop right there, yeah.
Yeah.
So they have, they're proposing to have a driveway off of Mary Hill to service this lot right here, so this is a lot. And then this is gonna be a back lot, so it goes up
Right.
like that, and they're gonna take access right here off of the road for that lot, and then this is the 3rd lot. We're gonna take access right here, and this is the back lot, having the access from here. I don't know why they wouldn't take it from, I'm not a designer, but,
Want to see less of your neighbors?
But the
well,
original,
I like
But
less
that's
road infrastructure, but
but the original plan was to have that 4th house on the upper end of.
so like up here somewhere. He didn't show the driveways, because in the TRG meeting, we're like, well, where are you
Yeah.
going to access that? Because they're not show, it's pretty much looks like the same layout. He didn't show how he was gonna access this.
But that would increase the price of the road then. We're putting-
Yeah.
Potentially, because I mean, it's still like a private road, it's still not up to town
Yeah.
standards, but it is a lot more than a common driveway.
Mhm.
Yes.
And the other question I had was, I'm trying to look over all the different maps, called
Mhm.
Burns map and others that trying to get an idea of the drainage there. I gather there's gotta be a culvert under Mary Hill Road at some point.
Yeah,
I think it's-
don't remember which sheet that is. But they're gonna be having a culvert, there's a resident across the road that's very concerned about,
Yeah,
Drainage.
the drainage coming into it, and they're gonna have a culvert I don't know what page it is, but it's gonna be right around, if I remember right.
I thought it looked like maybe it was a retention pond down there.
Yeah.
They're gonna do that too.
Still gotta go somewhere.
Yeah, maybe the drainage plan.
That drainage plan might have it on it, the one that you were at first.
Well,
Sheet
it's
11.
easy to find because it's in pink.
Yeah,
But it didn't seem like it showed a culvert or.
we were there.
Ago. Yeah, that's the showing the retention ponds.
Oh, no,
No, right there.
it's right.
No,
Can't
that's not
quite
it.
see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
You see
it looks like
15-inch
it.
RC.
Oh, yeah, 15, yeah.
And another one here, 15-inch
So
CM.
they're gonna have one, but their resident that lives over, where's his house? I think it's right here. This property owner, but their house is over here. They're worried about,
Yeah,
the drainage coming up
there's another
there.
driveway, I think, off to the left. I think it might be off the map or right, yeah. I think
Over in here.
right there.
On that property.
Another
Oh,
culvert
the
too.
culvert is,
Mhm.
anyway, I was wondering, because this is all upstream of Mendham's Pond.
Hmm.
It's like less than a half mile, so it would certainly affect Mendham's if it was to get too mucked up, right? And that's a big wetland up above.
Yeah,
If you go,
Over the hill.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's actually much bigger than that. If you've been out
It's
on
huge.
Marsh Road
Hmm.
and, in the middle of Stonehouse Forest, there's a huge wetland complex out there. Evidently, it all drains down this way and, through one of those, or several of those culverts, I gather, so.
Hmm.
It's a consideration certainly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So they're saying that they just didn't want to spend the extra money to do a better road, because
That's the
our
hearsay.
comments were based on that this was such a nice plan that they were
Yeah,
gonna.
this is-
Yeah, so
road
this,
that
that's
was gonna-
hearsay. That's my opinion of it.
Yeah.
That's the building department's take on it. 'Cause since the engineer has not formally presented to the planning board,
Yeah,
I anticipate that's why, because the comment from the TRG was, because the engineer was there, that you gotta make sure that it's up to standards, and we are concerned about the turnaround situation for the fire trucks, because he has not shown that. There was some slope comments.
Can you explain, sounds like they've already been into the ZBA for
Yeah.
variance?
So, a project, it's not required to go to the ZBA beforehand, but a lot of times a developer or engineer will go to the ZBA first, because if there's a problem with their design, they don't want to go all the way through the planning board process, and then, because that's against our regulations, how they have it. They would go to the ZBA to ask, access not for frontage. So they're, so all the lots are not getting access from the front, they're getting it from that interior road. And the ZBA granted that
I thought I saw some reference of the driveway crosses a buffer.
Right
Oh, yeah.
here.
yeah, so they're,
Yeah,
they're, doing a
9.6.
special permit 9.6.
I
For
think
about-
this is effectively a wetlands crossing.
I believe so, because it's almost 5,000. I think it's like 4,900 and change.
Well, you mean the area then?
The area of impact.
Well, this one is stated as being over 10,000. This one is almost 5,000. It says right here.
Right,
it's
yeah,
it's a
buffer
lot,
impact.
yeah.
And it was really nice when they had proposed just this road, and I had assumed they were going to branch off of that to get into the adjacent lot. This is kind of a mess. And, we can't, trying to apply that method to this is an interesting case for this, and we do need to get Mark back in, because one thing, I did talk to him about some of the issues that had come up. One being that the area of impact is not addressed in the method at all.
Just
It's
the
it's a
distance,
linear
yeah.
distance,
Mhm.
and that makes no sense, and he agrees that makes sense.
Especially with a site like this where you've got
Right.
multiple impacts.
Right, but how do we deal with something like this? We can't, and I think this needs an application to the state, which they'll obviously grant. But then we don't have to deal.
I understand the CBA's granting exceptions with certain hardships,
certain situations. How does like a kind of like a brand new kind of development qualify for exemption to an existing?
So the, we can say that, not the argument, but the discussion was, the ZBA did not see this extra road. Or, I'm sorry, driveway. The original plan that went forward had the 4 houses off of that main swoopy
Mhm.
S shape or C shape, whatever shape
Sure,
it is.
so this was the
Shape.
original.
No, this is the resubmittal, so this is what's gonna
Yeah,
go
no,
before the
this
planning board.
was
That
the,
road,
the
yeah.
original one.
Oh, yeah, the road, that's what the ZBA saw, and they said the reason they were putting that road in the way it is because they did not want to impact the wetlands.
Mhm.
And so that's essentially why they
Okay.
bring it to them, because,
So should they
They-
not have to go back before the ZBA now?
that's what I'm mulling that over. I talked to the zoning administrator, he says no.
Hmm.
That's where it's kind of hard to, you know, have that say from my office.
This, by the way, is the wetlands that back
Mhm.
here. I can see how
And that's just a piece of it. It
Right.
actually extends. John Wallace had mentioned to me, I think, at some point discussing this, because he lives nearby and right adjacent, I guess, up from there is Stonehouse Forest. So, you know, he was saying, gee, it'd be nice if he wanted to gift part of that land, because they can't do anything with that back. But that's included in the lots? Is that also?
I think that he's
Carved
keeping
up.
it looks like it's a different, like not part of the parcel.
That's what it was.
I thought it was too, because it didn't show it as a new lot.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
those
well,
Well,
lots.
that's a new lot, but it might be like there's an existing
back
trail.
lots.
I thought that the line stopped right here. Because you're talking about this in here,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
This doesn't continue, does it? See, this is a lot line,
Right.
but
and it
that
stops
does
right here.
not.
It doesn't keep going, it stops right here.
Yeah.
So like there's one lot here,
Yeah.
here, here,
So I'm wondering what.
here.
What's the status?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no mention of a lot number,
No, there's not.
or is it belong to somebody else? They usually-
No, I'm pretty sure it's.
I
part of
believe
that.
it's still part of his, because it's a really large lot, like.
Yeah, so does.
When they came to the public meeting, they're like, well, we could have done like 15 houses is what he was saying. I don't know if that's true or not, but.
Turtles,
In his imagination.
Yeah. That's a good comment for them.
Yeah, so anyway, John's idea was that Sell would be very interested if they wanted to gift it to him or something, so this was an idea. Guess we could bring it up at the planning board, but
Well, I added to my staff report for the resubmittal, the comments I have down here.
Yeah. just seems like a lot of wetlands sort of get lost in the shuffle, or you don't know what happened to them, or if they weren't part of the conservation plan. Now, the other side of Young Road has a similar situation where and it's a prime wetland, actually. This one isn't actually, I looked it up, but it's next to a prime, it probably ought to be a prime
Right.
wetland, it's pretty damn big. But anyway, it seems like they sometimes get, they ought to get conserved somehow. Put some kind of deed restriction on it.
So the other thing that I'm wondering about is when did they apply for the 9.6? Because what I did was, so it turns out that the Barrington method is not supposed, and it's stated directly in the document, you're not supposed to apply this to a subdivision. It's supposed to apply only to individual lots. And there were problems when applying it to a subdivision because of what, the boundaries are way out there and it's adjacent to all kinds of things, which makes it score a lot more difficult than if you're considering the individual lots. So, with the individual lots, you could reduce the buffer size significantly. If you were taking the whole subdivision, you could not. So at what point do they apply for a 9.6?
He submitted a 9.6 with this application.
Really?
And that's for both. The whole.
It would be for these two pink areas.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the board would grant them that night. Typically, it seems like they may or may not. I mean, since they haven't seen this yet, I can't see
Yeah.
like how they would view it. Doesn't mean that they'll approve it that night, but they submit it as part of their application.
So this is February 3rd, is that?
Whatever, yeah, next,
First. Yeah.
or not next Tuesday, I'm sorry, the first Tuesday, the third or it's the fourth.
So it sounds like we may want to have some comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, that project is the only project, well, there's, some Oak Hill's still on there, but they're gonna probably continue. And this is the only other project on the agenda.
Okay.
So,
All right.
well, I do probably say, because I know Barbara gives you all the case files.
Yeah, just this one was kind of
New.
weird because it's not new.
It's new, but it's not, I mean, it is, because this is a resubmittal and they
Yeah.
changed their design.
And our
Yeah.
previous comments don't really apply, or they need to be amended, or as, you know, I don't want them to quote us on that.
We were happy, we are no longer.
Right.
It's a plan where the left on read issue. I mean, because it's not it's in line with what planning would normally grant, so.
No, I mean,
Trip, thank you.
I would agree with that one too, so it's also like, when I asked the zoning administrator, I said, this, I mean, ZBA didn't grant the lot frontage. The reason, one of the reasons was because they weren't affecting the wetlands, now they're affecting the wetlands with this
Mhm.
bed, so.
Yeah.
The
All right.
interested party wanna ask for a rehearing? Actually, it might, well, it might be past 30 days. That was December. This is ZBA hearing.
What is it, 30 days?
So within that, so something that goes before the ZBA, if there is like, usually like an abutter or a person of interest, for example, that has issue with how the decision was made by the ZBA, you can ask for a rehearing of the case due to XYZ, like this is now change in design, this is change in design, and I don't know if you did it. I don't think it's intentional, but I mean, the 30 days have already passed to ask for the rehearing. Now, definitely put it in the staff report that it should be reconsidered going through the ZBA, because it's the intent of the ZBA was because of all 4 lots being serviced off that road. And the planning board could go either way with that.
That's their.
That's
their
that's the
call.
hard place in it when you, when the zoning administrator says that there's no. Like, how do you, I mean, it's a conundrum. I wish I had a quick solution for you on that, but I
Yeah.
think that'd be a lot,
All right, if there are no other questions, Nessa, I guess we're done with you. Thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome. I did notice on the agenda, there's something about I don't know if if you're gonna talk about the trail meeting that's happening on the 3rd.
I was gonna mention it, but did you have some?
Well, I just wanted to add, I know that you've been waiting on a map. Unfortunately, like SRPC staff has had some emergencies, but I'm hoping to have a draft at least for the meeting. And then I can set it up with you and John and whoever else wants to review it, because that will be from the comments that was from whenever that was, November.
We have the election, the Farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. and
yeah, because there was some additional corrections that were to be made that wasn't gonna make it for that,
Right,
but we should have had one by now, but things happen.
but it's sometime spring or.
Well, they told me by the 3rd, Jen at the office said that they would be able to get a draft of all those comments that we had, and I know that we wanted to look at it again, not necessarily in the group,
Right.
but to make sure that all the parcels were properly identified, and if there was any other pictorially looking at it changes.
Good, okay.
Thank you. And if you guys need me to come to any other meetings or anything, just feel free to ask
Yeah.
too, because I don't
Certainly if this.
see the agendas all the time. I just go. So, because I know Barbara handles all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Well,
Well,
thank
it's
you
certainly
for-
timely this time.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for letting me come in at last minute too to discuss a lot of these too, so.
Okay,
All right.
so back to our regular agenda. Did anybody get a look at the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah.
Any
but,
comments?
No, I was looking at them just to find out what West had said.
Right, yeah. Yeah. All right, so I'll accept them as submitted. Yeah, treasurer's report.
Hey, we got a fourth quarter 24 land use change tax amount of $52,725, giving us a balance of $790,621.29. And based on the report that I'm keeping the shared personnel project on the list, but I'm going to zero it out. We still got about $407,000 of outstanding. Anything from the website costs that we're going to pay off once I can submit these minutes to the Richardson Dam study from West. I'm going to use the 330 for the dam because that's the last hard number we got, and 65 for Swain Village. So we still got liabilities, but the good thing is our funds far exceed that. But then there is
You said 400,000?
about 400,000 liabilities now without that shared personnel project.
And Landry that's been paid.
So we are looking at the future. I know SELT is interested in, if you recall, the more Bedford properties on the other side of Ayers Lake, namely. They're looking for funds. So good to know what we've got.
Yeah, in a way, it'd be nice to, I know it's work, but lock down what the dam project is, so we know what we could do with the rest of our money. And now that we're being told that there's some belt tightening going on,
Yeah, pretty tough to get
Yeah,
much, down.
and I have to look again. I know I got the number somewhere. How much is the dam fund? And I have no idea what the current plans are for what they need.
Yeah,
Swain, because that's going to be priority for that fund.
Yeah.
And with that, it could make it hard for us to ask the town fathers to put a warrant up to help pay for, we'll call it our dam. Since it looks like there's going to be a dam one way or another.
Yeah.
Speaking of the prior minutes, I know we talked about this music parcel sale, and we appropriated $65,000. But I think I talked to you about it, Mike. Thinking about it further, without there being public access to the property, which
Well,
it's questionable.
It's quasi-public, it's neighborhood access.
Neighborhood access for hunting
Without,
and hiking.
yeah. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying, if it came up again, I'm not certain I'd vote for it because
Well, that's what we had approved and that's what
I
they
know that, but
went ahead with.
second thought, I'm not certain I would. Because we are spending public funds there, and it seems like there should be anything we buy, should have, reasonable public access to the property.
That's not what our charter says.
No, and not all properties have public access. I mean, Turtle Brook being an example, if you've been over there, they actually built a wall. It's an organic wall, but they actually cut down trees and laid them across the road to make it clear that you shall not go there.
And this was along the lines of, because one of the things is, we protect the land and try to bring it into use, but we protect the land primarily to protect the water. This is to make sure that Swain Village District, their water supply is protected.
But I was actually at the hearing on it, before the planning board, and there were neighbors who were upset to have any access. One of them was the next door neighbor who said, "You're gonna be walking right by my house." I said, "Well, what's your house doing right next to the property line?" Yeah, sure. It's not conforming, whatever. But anyway, the neighborhood was concerned that it not be a big public access site.
They're not
So-
saying it's, the public can walk there,
Yeah.
correct? If they know about it and want to go, they
Yeah.
can.
But the point is, there won't be a trailhead,
Right.
there won't be a kiosk, there won't be a parking.
Yeah.
And that's the way we agreed, that's the way.
Yeah, we could, like, if you want to go walk Jeffrey's property, you gotta go talk to Steve and go on there. You can't park out on Breezy Way to walk in Village Place. You can only park in our lot just beyond Milos.
Right.
So we've got varying degrees
Yeah.
of public access.
Yeah.
You know, when I get to one of my items in the end, if we died of exhaustion, I'll show you that I didn't include some of the properties in town on the list because it basically the book says we got one little trail on it and it's really not open. And it's usually wet, so I'm not even gonna send people there. Because, you know, advertising a
I
property.
hear what you're saying. I just,
Yeah.
I don't really,
Well,
I don't like
it's
it.
a done
If
deal.
I,
Yeah.
if I just, if I were vote again, I would say no.
Yeah. Well, let's keep in mind for future reference, future properties. That's certainly a
Maybe it's not part of our charter. I got that, but.
Yeah.
And I respect the public.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it is due soon, as we understand, so. And you had some other items from fences and such. Well, one thing was Jeffries and Trails.
Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna pull up the picture here. So Steve Jeffrey was cleaning out a garage or whatever, and he found an 18-inch aluminum sign, somewhat typical of the kind we usually use.
Actually, what he told me is that he had bought it to use on his property, on his trail.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of public, but his wife didn't like it. Didn't want to advertise. And so he said, I can't use this. My wife
Yeah,
doing it.
we looked around the holes. It's never been mounted before. It's virgin. I think you can tell from the picture. But I had to clean it, but it's with Charlie now. We just need formal, I think acceptance of a gift. It's around $50 value. But we could use it. We put these things up. We got plans to put them up in a few places.
I like seeing them.
Yeah, so I looked in our bylaws and it said any gifts need to be approved by the, and you know, it didn't give a dollar amount, so I'm assuming that even a $50 gift.
So we have to take that up to the select board?
No, not to the select,
Okay.
but we need to.
Okay.
I moved
Then
that
they
they approve the sign, yeah. Move on.
Okay.
That's a good one.
We have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Related to the select board, the Trails Committee submitted up to you guys and then you approved it, which was the Native American land acknowledgement.
Right.
And we wanted that to go up to the select board, just because what we didn't want is the select board getting a rash on of shit from somebody.
Not knowing.
Especially in this age where, you know, anything that's progressive is now being looked down upon a little bit in some places. We're using the tested wording of SELT. We'd like to, you know, use it, so we might put it up on our kiosks and stuff like that.
So are you suggesting?
I said like to,
To them?
yeah, send what. We don't want to, you know, put them in a position where all of a sudden they're getting gripey constituents.
Yeah.
Or we want their approval so that when they do get gripes, at least.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
or they can tell us no if they don't like to do that back. I hope it
Does
wouldn't.
that sound like a reasonable thing?
Was this at, meeting I wasn't at?
Yeah, you were here.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I didn't hear it.
We approved to allow them to have this
Do we have that?
statement. It's posted at.
It's a short paragraph.
Yeah.
Totally reasonable.
I have to go look for it again, but it'll be in English, not Abenaki. But it's the same.
Yeah, that's right.
It's very simple.
A lot of, unfortunately, a lot of Democratic groups sometimes lead off meetings with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we figured, well, we're not asking the town to do it for everything. We just want to do it for the outdoor we maintain, not sell, just us.
So can you put together a memo or just?
I will,
whatever,
all
put
right.
the language and all, and I don't know if you want to send it directly to Connor or I don't know how it should be.
Yeah, start with Connor, but where do we want to put it?
Like on the kiosks of the town-owned lands.
And it's a limited number, but you know.
Probably
people do
just,
look
you know,
at the kiosk.
8.5 by 11.
Yeah,
you said by 11,
Self has it on theirs. You said,
Huh?
you said.
They use it. I don't know if it's up on all their properties. We decided that we thought it was nice to acknowledge, you know.
I have it here if you want to. It says,
I'm sure it's good, but
it says we are located on something which is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Cook, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Alnobac people who have stewarded this land, they give the name, throughout the generations.
It's just that mostly English.
Yeah.
that's great.
So you'll do that?
All right. And I will call you since you might be So what do you know about this? Yeah. So to come.
Was there some other, I know you had that draft of.
I was only, it's only not treasurer stuff, so I don't know if you want to do it now.
No,
Do you want to add something to the last line of that, you know, we, whatever the Conservation Commission or we, the residents of Barrington, hope to maintain, you know, something to the continuation of that perspective. That's
Oh, to carry on.
just kind of like, well, our mission, our vision, our operating, you know.
We didn't want to mess with the cell one because they put work into it.
Okay, so that's
just
just
the idea to be
Strictly self- okay.
Yeah.
Because if not, we
Probably,
probably,
that's kind of applied to everybody, but.
Yeah, and I just, it might
Yeah,
be nice to kind of show the connectivity and ongoing.
Well, if the select.
I
board
sent you
wants
something
us
you
to-
might want to be able to show.
Then
Send an
just-
email and on us.
I'm just trying to not move things along and not rehash what
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
decided.
It's attachment.
Oh,
Because your emails are personal.
that's something.
What you got?
Jack sent me an email. So I stopped sharing and I'll bring it back. in.
Is this a
Okay.
treasure business or?
No, but.
Well, no, why don't we wait till we do
Okay.
trails, get sets of trails.
Yep.
But that's all you have for treasures.
I don't think-
Okay, oh, we have one other new business that we didn't talk about, Vanessa, and that's this Fisher Research Permission Request, and we're talking Fisher cats, not cats, but you know, Fisher weasels. And this is a project between, State Fish and Game and UNH. And they want to, live trap fishers and put collars around them like they do in all those great wildlife stories and track them, find out where they hang out. And so they're looking at 5 different sites around Barrington to do this project where they would do this trapping. And it'd be over a couple of years. It's not going to happen this spring necessarily. But they want our permission to do that. They're all the kind of the usual suspects, you know, it's the Satwasser, Caliph, Goodwill, forgetting, Village Place, which is a little complicated and we don't know that. And so did you see, I CC'd you on
You
the,
did, was it very interesting, it was very
but I
fascinating.
assume there's a neighborhood association, there must be somebody who
There-
signs off on, you know, when we do the monitoring or something. You,
There is, and we send it to them. I don't hear back from them, but
yeah. Anyway, you know, the idea, you know, they're mainly concerned with the landowner. And all the others, of course, are town, so I guess that's us. But Village Place being a private. We have the easement, but they own the land, so they want to get their approval.
I got Fisher cats on my place.
Yeah, I mean, they're around.
Breeding,
I've seen them.
breeding.
too.
I saw, in fact, I saw it today.
Oh, yeah.
I tracked.
All right, we're not doing sightings.
The lab is on the grant, so any of the deceased fishers are coming to us for autopsy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you're familiar with the project.
Good, okay.
There's been a decline in fishers in the state in recent years, so they're trying to investigate what's causing the decline. So they're testing for various diseases, things,
Right.
Yeah, we used to see
heavy
them
metals.
regularly and I haven't seen them in years.
Yeah. But evidently they're around, or obviously they're gonna find out if they're around. I did ask them about, you know, locations and IDs, and, you know, if somebody does come across the traps, obviously they wanna know what's up. They said they will put a little, you know, card on them saying what it's about. And they're gonna stay off of, you know, trails, or, you know, they said 80 yards or more from the trail. So seems like that'd be kind of tough at Village Place. It's a pretty small property, but they seem to think they could do it. So if people have questions or comments about it, sound good?
Does sound good.
That's great, yeah. Glad they're doing it.
I guess I'll need a motion to approve that we sign off on this. They actually have a permit for doing a lot of traffic.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for Fisher Research.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll get back to him on that. I did ask him, someday we'd like to get a presentation, find out what they're learning. They said, well, it's gonna be a while, but I'll let you know. So we may not have much data for, 6 months or a year. I guess.
Yeah, the data will become.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that's all the new business. And I think we've covered the Mary Hill project there. And trailing our connectivity thing, as Vanessa mentioned, there's a meeting that had been rescheduled and it's now it's the third Monday, 6 p.m. I guess it's here. They were gonna do a field meeting, but they.
Is this a public, open to the public?
I guess so. It's this committee, the interconnectivity. It's now, I guess, called the Town and Trails Committee, because that's what this project requires.
But, I mean, is it different than past meetings in some way that they want the public to come and?
No, it's not. No, it's not that kind of
Oh,
thing.
okay.
They probably will at some point, but this is just to kind of introduce the staff people. They've got this grant with UNH and one other entity, but it's a UNH program, and so it's perhaps focusing in on things that they can help us with. All the stuff related to the town center and connecting the trails and so forth. So
What time is it
6 p.m.
and where?
I think it's here. I'm not sure probably maybe in the big room. Gate. February 3rd. That's right. It's the Monday. Sound right? So that's and she mentioned about the map. We eventually will be getting an improved map. So monitoring.
Stable, the new 2025 pipe list, I'm a little fresh to hear that it's ironing building.
Yeah. Well, that's not
But,
absolute, but out there, yeah.
anyway, so this is the list, starts in May, goes on through November, 16 different nights. White Crest, however, there is a question. I didn't call John, John, I heard from him, but White Crest is something that he is paid or has been paid by the city of Rochester to monitor, but he told me he's not doing it anymore. So and the question is, okay, what does that mean to us?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never even looked at the since I never had anything to do with it. I haven't looked at the easement.
I did it once with it.
You did it once with it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you think the city of Rochester would want to
But probably close to.
Especially since they're talking about maybe changing that reservoir to hold more and affecting the neighbors on Pond Hill.
Yeah.
It directly affects me too, because I gotta be careful how I vote on that, because
Yeah.
it feeds into Berry River, which feeds into Long Pond, which feeds into the Isaac.
Right. Is that
And I just assume not have my pond turn into a swamp.
So anyway, I haven't heard back from him as to what we need to do there, if anything, but anyway, it starts out in May and continues all the way by the summer's like off. Pick up again in September. That's it. It's one more that we did last year. That's triple game. That's over. Can't say that won't change. I mean, if it suddenly in April things look really nice and we can walk, I might want to start it early. So.
Don't you go out west in the spring?
Right.
Would you go out west Arizona?
I'll be gone most of March, so I'll be back in April. Next February, I'm right. It's very good job. Anyway,
It's different for you.
summer. And going forward, from April forward, I like it here. Cold weather's good.
It's getting dull these days. All right, great. Thanks for putting that together. Get out there and check them out.
For your.
I did submit the annual report and I was able to include several photographs. They look pretty good. We'll see what they do with it. It ended up being longer than I expected. It's actually turned out quite a bit to talk about. Of course, it probably should be amended, but not. Well, I said, proposed hiring of staff.
I had to submit a change to
Oh, yeah.
today, to Tiffany, so you can still.
Yeah, I'm sure I could. I don't think I wrote anything that, it's embarrassing. No, actually, it's still proposed. I mean, maybe it'll be for next year. Who knows? I mean, we can have a longer discussion maybe next meeting on that, the hiring stuff. So anyway, that'll be coming out at the town meeting. Trails committee?
Things. We're going up tomorrow to assess the Barrington Town Forest for work. We're going to do a submission with Serve with Liberty, which is a program with Liberty Insurance. We're still doing projects around here despite moving to Portsmouth. And we've got a list of things that need to be fixed. The town forest, a lot of infrastructure was put in there that needs to be either fixed or eliminated. Benches that are no longer serviceable.
Yeah.
We got a lot of beaver drop around the amphitheater and around the stream that goes through with the northern end of the property.
Yeah.
We're also talking about maybe storing some of the cages we've got around some of the trees there to keep the beavers from dropping everything around that brook. Because they will.
Did you report about that big tree that's down at Caleb? Big tree that's up the Caleb Trail that we all were being on Caleb east. Gigantic tree fell across that trail.
That was Caleb West.
Caleb West.
You know the tree that fell across the trail?
It's a big one.
Yes, it's a big one.
Yeah, it was like an 18-incher.
Yeah, so
That needs
Easy saw,
Yeah.
Saw that.
The last time we went out there, we need to upgrade our tools a little bit because last time we tried to take on some 18-inchers, we had to come back.
Free episode.
I got one time we left after the storm.
Always brings two saws.
We had to go get tools to go back to recover the blade and the chain. The biggest we got was maybe 18 inches.
I used to make chains
And
though.
mine's electric, so I get chuckles.
That battery goes dead at just the wrong time.
No, I bring a second battery, which is heavy as hell. No, it's just, I'm not as good as Charlie, and Charlie's probably not as good as like a Forester.
there is a big tree on the Barrington Trail also. Actually, I believe it's the late lamented county champ, pitch pine.
Oh my.
I've been wondering where it was, and because it's in the guidebook, and John Wallace had mentioned it. And
I missed what species?
pitch pine, and I didn't realize when they get that big, they turn reddish. So it looks more like a ponderosa pine, or a red pine.
Red
really.
pine.
Which portion of red pine?
Trails is
It's right by the overlook for the rookery, so it's between Brewster Road and the rookery, and it's pretty good size. I mean, being county champ, it had been dead for some years, but it finally just fell right over the
I
trail.
think the one on my property took over for county champ.
Could be.
Yeah, it looks
You got a
like
good size.
It's terrible.
Yeah, well, that's what they are.
They're not exactly looking
Gnarly looking, but native trees. So, okay.
Other things, some of us participated in the forest bathing event that Parks and Recreation had. Talked to them about cross promoting. They're going to do it for money, raise the money. We're just going to let people know it's there, so we have another way to enjoy the woods. It's a little different than just going out and hiking. I don't know if there's any need for a vote. I'm just putting it out there as
What is it? I missed
forest bathing. Shimmering, you go out and you think deep thoughts and communicate with nature. You actually hike you sit down for a while and you think and appreciate.
Bathing?
Yeah.
It's the translation of that word Shinran Yoku from Japan.
Yeah.
They developed to mellow out all their people because in the 80s they figured out.
It's one of those new age Eastern
Yeah.
things, which, you know.
There's tea involved, but no crystals.
Yeah. But whatever gets them out in the woods. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And they had a good turnout, I heard.
Yeah, they had 17 people. Talked about doing another one. And
In my office at UH, I have a huge picture of a forest trail kind of going into the forest. Similar kind of piece of.
Yeah.
so
And the moonlight hike also went off.
yeah, went off.
Yeah.
The only thing bummer was we had no snow.
We were worried there were too many people that managed to
The
fit.
number went down when you get temperatures that low, though.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even after calling the police, 2 calls, letting them know where we were going to be, neighbors still called them and dragged them out.
And that happened last year too.
Yeah. Could you open up that document?
Yeah.
So this is something we picked up. I picked up when I was in Durham, an ARA event, but it's a quick one page, 2 pages, 1 sheet, nice stock, a grid of their hiking areas with a quick description, where they're at, number of trails, maybe features. So I've drafted one up. I didn't put the little pictures they did in because the thumbnails are so small. It's like, oh, good, it's a tree. I wouldn't have expected that. So I left, but I've got the addresses, features. This is still in the draft mode. And I didn't put the little symbols in for all the activities because trying to find a set of them where they were all uniform, we couldn't. So at the time I said, I'm just going to put down what our book says it's allowed on these properties. So it goes to a second page. And there's something there that I ran by Jessica. If you look at the 2 bottom there, I've included the Parks and Recreation Park and Gym and the Town Common. There are new features there. If you haven't figured out yet, they're now becoming a more entity. They've got their grant. They're going to upgrade their building when the library moves out. They've got all kinds of programs. Hell, I'm thinking of joining them and going to Iceland, I think, this fall. We all kinds of neat shit. But the pickleball's full. I mean, they're really trying to make sure that there's things to do here in town. But I talked to Jessica the other day about this, about putting it at her location. The library already has some of our trail trekkers. There might even be a place to put it here in the town hall. Say, hey, instead of buying a book, which we don't have anymore right now, we are editing, this is something that could go in people's hands or they could download it as a PDF. And it tells them exactly what they can and can't do. And features. So advertise these green spaces. And we figure.
Can you flip it back to the, I didn't finish the first page.
Nice. I didn't include things like Jeffrey and some of the others that only have like one stinking little waterlogged trail. It's not worth it. I'm trying, these are the ones, people should go out on.
And actually have marked blazed trails,
They don't have to ask permission from owners.
And Susan would like that. His wife.
Yeah.
Where's Satwasser on here? Did you
Was it on the second page?
Second page.
how did you break that out with all the different side trails?
Oh,
Yeah. By the way, I think I saw on the minutes of planning board, an approval for the parking lot at Landry.
Yes, they've already started it.
They did, okay,
Yeah.
and they just finished.
The gate's
one.
gone, and you can look in there and see much more clearly.
Yeah.
Because last time we went in there, we had to park. It was really snug.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and you couldn't block everybody else. if you were-
It'll be a,
But,
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be another trail back from the beach area where you end up. Because there was talk of a trail there that might go up to the top.
Right.
Just to say,
Yeah.
I climbed Mount Misery. I don't think they're going to sell bumper stickers, but
Might be a
But
good one.
I was told that it might not happen. It'll just be that little loop that you up and around like this, and you get to
Be
be
down to the
Yeah.
water.
down the water.
But I just noticed they were pulling out from finishing the parking lot at Layton or Layton.
Yeah,
and the
John.
new
Yeah,
Stratford.
whether they're fully going to mark it or not, we don't know. I wish they.
No,
would.
I did ask. He said they were going to put kiosks at both.
Yeah, but that kind of right now, because if you take out the trails that go into people's backyard,
Mhm.
it's kind of just a long trail. It's going to be out and back.
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to cut
At
it
Layton?
at Layton. Yeah,
Well,
I think you were on the hike with us. a
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
Seasons ago.
It went
I
by
don't
the,
know.
by
Yeah.
the houses, but
yeah.
What?
I thought the trail did a loop, but it went by houses. It just, I don't remember going into somebody's yard on.
Well, no, but if you're going around like the long trail, there's a couple of side trails go off. And next thing you know, ooh, garage.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of land out there. And I thought at least they'll probably do a more formal trail out to the
What
the,
that is,
quarry
don't.
area.
Yeah, that'd be nice because you can point to
Yeah.
the activity that used to happen there.
Yeah,
Because right now you you take one of those trails, but then you have to go off it. That would be a nice thing.
and the really nice
And there is
area
one, there
is
is a stream.
yeah, there's several streams. It's
Yeah.
Hippo Brook and the other.
Yeah, I've got a picture I took in there the time when we were there walking in the
Right.
winter
Yeah,
with the idea of would you like to contribute? And I thought it was beautiful.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
I used it as a screen picture for a while.
yeah. I would hope they'll
Yeah.
figure out some
But
other.
but last I heard, I don't know the plan for that yet.
Yeah,
It's something maybe we have to get with Johan and
Yeah.
itself to find out, are they gonna do it?
right. Yeah. So anyway, good. Okay.
Tonight
I
for
had-
sure.
And the last thing is that Senate bill. Signature.
Yeah. Well, oh, that's right. I forgot. I did want that on the new item. So we will get to it, but I have a few typos and things that I could just send you.
Oh, please do.
One thing I was wondering though is whether it doesn't look like there'd be room, but it'd be nice if we could include the whole town map. It kind of just shows that, I know it would be hard unless you know.
I could try.
I mean, obviously you just tell them to go to the website, or is there something in there about,
Well, I don't know,
please see the
well,
website?
they had the website for us and for Parks and Recreation.
But you mentioned there's a trail guide, there's all the maps.
Well, put that in your notes back to me about maybe
Yeah.
mentioning that there's
Yeah.
more information at these places, because that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We could print on a larger format and have it folded too, if
Yeah.
you wanted to.
Yeah, but no, I think it's good.
But I think at the end, if we agree to do this, I would be asking the Concom to pony up some print money.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure, yeah, so we want
Since
to
we've
not
got
have to
most,
do it at 100 at a time. Because I would assume it would be popular item. Okay, good. Lands Committee has them.
No, and just to fill you in, so they did start to complete the logging operation on Goodwill yesterday. Not all the equipment's in yet, but the feller buncher is in there and is dropping trees. It's gonna be a mess.
Yeah, but they're planning to.
I'm
get that done.
hoping it's well frozen.
Yeah, it's a good time of year.
Yeah, even if it thaws a bit, it'll take a while to
Yeah.
really thaw.
They're expecting to be in there 2 to 3 weeks.
So it should be done by March.
Oh, easily, yeah.
So hopefully the Trails Committee can be working on coming up with whatever, figuring out where the
Yeah,
trails are gonna
and this time they had avoided the existing trail in the first batch of cutting they did. They're not avoiding the area that Charlie and I laid out for the trail. I mean, Tim did ask me what the flagging was for, and I told him, it was a circle trail that we had laid out.
was going up to the ledges, right?
Yeah, but weren't we
Yeah.
partly thinking that a skidder road would become a trail, or, that it would be, I mean, I know it's good.
They're not great for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at any rate,
Yeah.
he's cutting right through all that,
Yeah.
coming right behind my house.
Yeah. All right.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of dead oak back there. I had talked to a few people about this. It started a couple of years ago. It's this little evil-like
Yeah,
beetle.
it gets into the stems and
It eats the leaves. I don't know if it gets into the stems, but it totally denudes the tree.
yeah. Well, I've seen it on some of our oaks. and
Have you?
It looks like a squirrel's gone up and chewed off the acorns like they do, but there's no acorns or no teeth marks, whatever. And my understanding is that it
Do
gets
you
in
know
there.
what they are? Because I've talked
It's
to.
an insect parasite, but yeah. My understanding is it doesn't generally kill the tree, but
Oh, it's killed a lot in our
maybe it
area.
has, yeah. Yeah. Well, Charlie Tatum, I think, would know more about it.
Maybe, I talked to the Vermont state entomologist, who's a friend of ours. She didn't have any idea.
This is oak trees.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get Charlie tomorrow. I can see what he knows.
Yeah, I think he was mentioning one other one that was, I think it was beaches that were not the one we all know, but it's actually getting the leaves of the beaches. But I don't know about if he mentioned the oak one, but I thought he had. It seemed like that had some, along it on a trail hike.
Jack, if you find
Conversation.
something out, let me know, 'cause I'd like to know what it is. No.
Yeah, well, before we get to the sightings, there's one other really important breaking news that didn't make it on the agenda, and that's this bill that's before the state Senate. Actually, they had a hearing this morning, fortunately. But, the word just went out yesterday from the Association of Conservation Commissions. And this bill would actually change, significantly change the land use tax, where we get all our money for the conservation fund. So that any development that has more than 20 houses in it that involves a land use change, which I guess most of them do, they wouldn't have to pay any land use change tax. And they say it's temporary, but the temporary is 5 years, which doesn't seem very temporary to me, but and I think the concept or the part of the rationale for it is that this is supposed to encourage housing because we know that we need more housing, but there's nothing in it about affordable housing. It's just any units. They can be big mansions, and that would qualify.
And we know how housing developments have gone. They are not going towards affordable housing, so.
No.
Even in our town, if they move it out to 130,000 square feet, what it's saying is, we're gonna allow development in Barrington for the people that can afford these things.
That's the thing, we're farming.
Yeah, I mean, there's several. I don't know. We don't always know when it gets paid or how it.
Oh, no, I looked, we actually have a quarter in there where we didn't get any.
Yeah, I mean, but certainly there's ones coming up that could be affected or obviously.
Yeah, I don't have any vision on that.
Yeah.
I just, this time I went out to ask Peter for numbers. I said, we usually do money this month from fourth quarter 2024. He came back with a number. But,
yeah, but I presume it's whenever it's approved, when the plan's approved. Planning board,
Is that a bipartisan bill?
Yeah, well, interesting. I was just about to say the one non-Republican on it, not to be partisan, but it is bipartisan, and the one who's on it is our senator, David Waters, from Dover. He's the one Democrat that signed on to it. And I'm sure he signed on the idea that it would make more affordable housing, but it certainly doesn't look like, maybe he's going to propose an amendment or something, but as it is, it's looks really bad and certainly impact our fund, let alone, hundreds of others. So the Association of Conservation Commissions obviously is adamantly opposed to it. They wrote a big, long, comment letter, and they suggested that we could as well. But I was going to just write something up because, the hearing was today and it's always better to get it in before the hearing.
Yeah.
But it's still good, they won't decide it for at least a week or two. So I would write up a letter on behalf of the Conservation Commission to prove that. So, you can look at what the association wrote, but it's basically those points that this would, seriously impact our future conservation efforts. It goes against the, all the rules about conservation funding.
Do you want a motion on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that the committee support Doug in generating a letter and sending it to the committee in opposition or proposing amendments either way to Senate Bill 55.
Second.
All in favor?
Do we want to do anything publicly on our end, or you just, because that gets.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know where it's going. I mean, it has a lot of, the other guys signed on to it, but the sponsor is Senator Gannon. Keeps track of these things. He's from actually just down the road in that area. which of course is where salt is based. So I'm sure they're concerned as well. But yeah, if it becomes a bigger issue, you know, maybe more, but you know, you're certainly all welcome to submit your own comments. You know, I'll do it for the group.
Yeah, because I mean, we could go, I don't even know if we're allowed to do this vis-a-vis the town, but I mean, we could excerpt some of this and give them the links for regular citizens to go voice their opinion on this. But don't know if we want to do it, if it's even allowed. Not sure if I've
I'm
seen
not following.
you put a post on our Facebook page, the Commerce Committee saying we're coming out against the bill. I mean, that's really just putting our stake in the ground on something in politics, which I
Yeah.
don't think we've ever done.
So
Yeah.
if
As
you,
far as
if you,
publicly
yeah, if you say that the Conservation Commission is coming out, that's okay, but you can't speak for the town. If you
Well, no,
want to
of
speak
course,
for the
yeah.
town, you have to go.
No, but
to
you're
the-
suggesting encouraging other people to do it. We call it grassroots lobbying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could check our
Yeah,
bylaws.
I'm looking at the exact wording that they used here, and they said, we encourage you to contact members of the Senate Commerce Committee. Let them know your concerns. So we can, with what we just voted, you can do that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. Submit
I
that.
mean, the
And I'll CC our senator, of course.
the problem is that we can't get something before the select board in time to have this be meaningful. So,
No.
I mean,
But even for us to speak as a board publicly, I'm not sure exactly can we do that.
Well, association says we can. so-
Oh, yeah, you're gonna speak to the
But,
Senate
yeah,
Committee.
Yeah, but I wouldn't
Primary
post it
person
on the
in-
website.
Say something.
Yeah, but you're suggesting doing something more public, like putting it on
I'm
the
just putting it
website.
out there as we've got the
Yeah.
tools to do it. I just don't know
Yeah.
if that is that gonna set a, is it against the rules? That's
Yeah.
something I could ask Connor. but-
yeah,
Yeah.
I would ask Connor.
Yeah, I think we need to be sure.
Because, you know, what happens
Okay.
when the planning board starts commenting on laws that are coming out and stuff? Is it gonna light off some shitstorms or not? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, it'll be a while before it goes to the House, you know,
Oh, yeah.
we could bring it before the select board if we wanted to go that route. Hope they'd be sympathetic, knowing a few of them. But again, I don't know whether, you know, has legs. I mean, it sure sounds like a really just, you know, real estate developer.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like real estate.
And that's who you have.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I haven't read David's support on this, but I assume it's, you know, let's reduce, you know, the price of putting in this housing, but they do admit here that, you know, it does not limit qualifying projects to affordable housing.
Yeah,
Simply
no,
any
I
development
read
for
through
20.
the language of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
You know, I could see Dave supporting it if it was, hey, it's gonna
Right.
build workforce housing, you know.
Yeah, if it actually
But
stipulated.
this
that
could
it's
have been for this.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, like-
No.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for that. I'll get on to that next few days. Several other things. All right, sightings. Folks seeing, we heard of Fisher.
Yeah, I tracked a Fisher cat. In fact, I think, you know, caught a couple of bulls and I looked like they had like ate a little bit. So a couple of them, I didn't see them. I didn't hear them, but they're out there. I know they are. So
Their items.
Been kind of fun seeing a Carolina wren that's been hanging out
Carolina Reds.
the whole year, but like now through the winters too.
Yeah. They're definitely.
It might
I
be-
got the other one.
You know, considering
Backyard,
these-
the backyard bird sighting is February. Sunday. And so I get that sheet from them and, yeah, they mentioned they're on, it's hanging around one.
Yeah.
And
I've had one too. It comes every now and then I see it.
mentioned there were fewer, black cap chickadees this year. I see quite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen more.
I've seen quite.
Yeah.
Pine systems, everywhere.
Yeah. I had an interesting, yeah, I had an interesting sighting just today. I was out skiing while we have snow. And there was a little teeny bird. It was a kinglet, a ruby crown kinglet. And I've seen them before and they're usually around this time of year, I guess. They generally hang out up in Canada, I guess, but they're down there in winter. And I actually saw its ruby crown, which is not that common. You have to be just at the right angle with the right light, so that's kind of neat. So
Are they up?
and they'll be at eye level a lot. Yeah, I mean they go all. They're little teeny guys. They're about the size of a wren, even smaller than a Carolina wren. But they have wing bars and just, about the size of a chickadee. And I also saw, I didn't see it, but I saw the footprints of a fox right going down our driveway. So sometime in the middle of the night, they wandered through. And if you don't know, they have very distinctive prints. It's just a straight line. And so I'm pretty sure it was a red fox. So,
Also heads up, it's coyote mating season. So they're out there and they're aggressive. I saw our story about it. I put it up on our Facebook, but then I also noticed that my dog did more singing this week than he's ever. This was out on the porch and he starts. And I'm like, you're a German Shepherd, you're not a coyote.
okay. Get a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right.
Anyway,
See you in February. I guess those
Next year, sir.
well, that goes with that stuff.